Hey everybody, we're here at the wheel mill in the Mini with Mike Potoczny. So recently I did a bike check with Mike, and not that long after that, he updated his bike. And with the whole S&M and Fit thing on my end going down, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at what he updated on his bike. And if you want to see everything else, watch the old video. What do you got new?
All right, pretty simple. I mean, I got a new Matty Acquisat frame. It's 20.5. Frame's totally sick. It feels just like every other good trail frame I've ever ridden, and it felt like home. Like I got on it, and it just feels good jumping. It's an amazing bike for jumping.
20.5?
21.5.
Okay.
I think I said 21.5, but whatever. Either way, that's what it is.
And the fork?
The fork is just your traditional pitchfork. It might be XLT. I don't even know. We'll look it up and we'll put it in the comment or something. It's a pitchfork. It's pretty sick.
But you brought up a really good point, and part of the reason why I wanted to make this and more turn it into like an informational thing about, you said you like to not ride a frame for more than 2 years.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a pretty big rider. I weigh over 250 pounds, so I try not to ride frame, fork, bar for longer than 2 years. I've seen a lot of people break stuff, and granted, you know, a lot of these products are great products. They probably would last 4 or 5 years, but you know, it's not worth the chance. Like getting older, I don't want to get hurt over something silly. You know what I mean?
I'm the exact same way, and like, obviously a part could last way longer than 2 years. Frames last longer than 2 years all the time. Forks last longer than 2 years all the time. But
if your forks fail,
that's the thing.
It's pretty bad.
If your forks fail, and the way I put it is like a frame and a fork most of the time costs less than a hospital bill.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, granted, not everyone can flip their bikes as easily as other people, but if you can, I believe it's a good idea, because you know, I'd rather be riding than out $100. You know what I mean? So it's like, or you know, $400 for a frame, $500 for a frame. I'd rather spend that than, you know, be out riding. Even if I just got a concussion or something, you know, like that sucks, and I'd be out riding for a month. You know,
yeah,
depending on what the case is.
You could break it down even further than that and say you don't want your session to end because you broke something. Even if you're fine, like you break apart, your session's over, and that sucks.
Exactly. And like, you know, getting older, your time's precious. So like, actually buying parts saves me time, because if they break, I can't ride, you know?
Yeah, and so it's a very important subject to talk about, just being mindful, because I've heard so many people brag. I've been riding this frame for 10 years. I've been riding these forks for 10 years. I'm like, dude, that's scary.
And this, I mean, one of the reasons why I was like looking at the time, one of my really good friends, his bars broke, but the bars were 8 years old. Whoever makes a bar that lasts 8 years old, that's a great product, but you shouldn't be riding a bar longer than 8 years.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. Especially if you're casing, bailing, throwing your bike, you know, hopping off a rail and your bike's just falling in the street, you know. So, you know, I'm a big boy casing a lot, so I switch this stuff out. And actually, like American-made bikes, I usually don't flex out that much, but if I have like a Taiwanese frame, I'll literally be able to stand on it, and you'll see my bottom bracket move after a year. Like I flex them out. So it's interesting. Like you get on another bike, and it's like immediately stiffer, like immediate. So also, like your parts will just feel better, you know, flipping them out.
Yep. And you can get away with, you know, things like rims and hubs and your seat and sprocket and things that are like
a seat post, or I mean, you know,
pedals.
This little barrel adjuster I've had for 12 years.
This specific one?
Yeah.
That's
it's
awesome.
Just a little silly barrel adjuster, but you know, like, and like, you know, I have a newer Shadow whole brake system, but before this I had, you know, my straddle cable hanger was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff is fine.
Brake lever.
But you should have a new cable.
Yeah.
I would honestly say get a new cable every year of your life.
Oh, just to have nicer feeling brakes.
Yeah.
For sure. So it would say like frame, bars, fork, stem, cranks are the top like 5 like safety parts to replace.
I mean, cranks last, but they also really instinct to brake.
Yeah,
You
if a
brake
crank
them,
breaks, you could.
Seriously gash yourself open.
a lot.
And it's bad.
And I also bend mine and flex mine. Like you'll put a new pair on and you're like, whoa. Like it's, and your bike's stiffer too. So like if you're a racer, it matters. Or if you want to go fast, it does matter. Like you actually feel more efficiencies, which is nerdy to talk about, but it is more efficient.
Dude, I love these conversations.
People love listening to these conversations, and
I think it's an important conversation just to have in BMX because
it's very easy to have 4 years go by, be riding the same part, and then have something happen, like your friend with the bars. Totally possible to have never even considered
he
replacing.
didn't even case the jump. He just landed and went.
yeah,
He was out. Brutal.
yeah, it's scary.
And to prevent that is, if you can, like it's the way to go.
Yeah.
So you're rocking the S&M stuff now.
Yep.
It's awesome. It feels
Frame,
good.
new fork feels great. Stiff. It's I switched to a more standard geometry to do some tech, but like I noticed with jumping, like I honestly might get a tech bike and like keep this style as a jumping bike. Like this has a very long back end. It's a Meller, head tube. So I might switch to that kind of stuff and actually have like when I'm riding wheel mill season, I'll have like a park bike, and then trail season, like this is the kind of bike I'll be riding.
Yeah, it
Totally makes sense to do that. And to add like my 2 cents into that conversation is just like, I used to have a 21 1/4 top tube frame, and I don't even know how long the rear end was on it, but I lost 5 taps when I had that frame.
Yeah.
completely lost them, so it makes sense.
It is crazy how different, 0.5, of an inch or whatever it is will do to your tech game or your trail game. And I was just so used to, before I switched to the wheel mill bike we made, I ran a bike very similar to this. When I was riding trails, I could feel myself a little shaky, but it was just because I had a shorter back end, steeper front end.
And you're going 30 miles an hour on trails.
So like this, the longer makes it stable, and it was like proof in the pudding. I was riding it and I felt it, and I was like, okay,
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
I would come here and do a toothpick or something and feel great, So it's crazy that you could ride like 4 or 5 different bikes for BMX for different applications, but you just got to find your medium.
In 2023, you can do that, but 20 years ago, you didn't even know what the geometry on your frame was. You just knew that you had that company frame.
Yeah, I didn't know. Until 10 years ago, I had no idea what my geometry was.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I kind of wanted to have this little update with Mike, and then kind of turn that little update into like a message and a reminder to people to just be mindful of like the safety of getting new parts, not just for the sake of like, oh, I got a new part, but for what it can prevent with hospital bills.
yeah, and just longevity.
I actually have a notepad like in like a Google Doc that has the dates that I put all this on my bike. So then I can look and go, oh yeah, that was 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever it was. And you're like, shoot, I'm probably in a new pair of forks,
Yeah, so with that being said, Mike, people can find you.
Here at the wheel mill in the wintertime. In the summer, you are
everywhere.
everywhere.
Anywhere, everywhere.
What's your Instagram again?
Michael Potoczny.
Michael Potoczny.
Simple.
Heck yeah, trail legend, good friend of mine, and thanks for the chat, man.
Let's get back out there.
Let's go. Next Gen Jam. That's where we're at. See you out there. Yes. Borrowed helmet.
I got running shoes on.
You are not ready.
I'm not ready to ride.
Thank you. Sick.